Welcome back, everyone, to These Aren't the Nerds You're Looking For. Kevin Horde here.
Lorenzo Fon here.
And today our special get...
No, not this week.
Zach wasn't able to come back this week. We miss you, Zach.
Indeed.
But, so you just got Kevin and Lorenzo today. But we're talking about Season 4, Episode 1, Water War. This came out on September 16th, 2011.
Yes. We are moving quite along. I can't believe we're in Season 4 now.
Yeah, we're, I guess, halfway through the original run.
Yeah.
Halfway through by seasons, more than halfway through by number of episodes.
Yes.
It's complicated. But anyway, yeah, Season 4, Episode 1, Water War, written by Jose Molina and directed by Dwayne Dunham.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You got any other notes for this one? We're still in 20 BBY.
Yeah, that's what I got.
I got about 2 million viewers, 1.93. Yeah, which is only about 100,000 people less than the Season 3 finale. So, hey.
Yeah.
They kept people's attention over, I don't know, 6 months or so, whatever it was. Anyway, fortune cookie. When destiny calls, the chosen have no choice. Who you got on this here?
Not gonna lie, this sounds like a sort of like a Dooku sort of quote to me.
Okay. I can feel that because I was going with, I was feeling like Qui-Gon, and seeing as like Qui-Gon is Dooku's like Padawan learner from like way back in the day.
Right.
Like, yeah. I think they do share some same kind of viewpoints, even though it's like they start with the same nugget of information and they look at it from different angles. So
yeah, there's completely different interpretations. But I agree. To me, it was Qui-Gon or Dooku, but they both kind of have this sense of destiny over choice, free will. Yeah, over free will for sure. So I'm down with either. You know, I agree with you. They both for sure have that feeling of an overarching destiny that they have no full control over, such as Qui-Gon throwing down on this chosen one prophecy. So yeah,
I'll totally go with Dooku. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
So our newsreel literally starts with the title of the episode, Water War. And then we get an introduction to Mon Calamari, the planet. Then Mon Calamari, the people. They are called peaceful. Then the other race on the planet is the Quarren. And they are called the squid-like aggressive neighbors.
Yes.
Essentially.
Yeah. So, quote, the aggressive squid-like Quarren and their peaceful neighbor, the Mon Calamari, unquote.
There we go. I had the entire thing backwards, but that works.
Right. And there's a lot of information that gets dropped in this newsreel. It's a pretty true newsreel / opening crawl sort of setup.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of information here. They talk about the Mon Calamari king, who has been murdered. So there's Prince Lee Char, who gets introduced in the newsreel. He has to step up and guide his people. It's really interesting to me that he is still referred to as Prince Lee Char for a little bit of the episode when, depending on how these rules work.
I do feel like it's kind of like, it depends on who's talking about this character. Mm-hmm. Like, some people are identifying him as the king or the ruler or whatever, and some people are still calling him the prince. And I think I kind of got the feeling it was like the people that don't agree that he should ascend to the throne as king are still calling him prince, and that the people that like accept the fact that that is what's going on are calling him king. Right.
Yep. I don't disagree with you there. It's just like in the first bit of the episode, there's people who definitely still call him prince a lot, and I think it's probably because it's a lot of the Quarrens that are calling him that. Then our last little bit of nugget is that of information is that Amidala and Padme and her Jedi bodyguard, who would be Anakin, are showing up.
Weird.
So they're showing up for some weird reason. and then the show proper starts in their like underwater Senate chambers, right?
Yeah, it says, well, so the reason is given, it is to prevent civil war, right? And then, like, the transition is a ship coming down and them jumping off, like, a diving board / plank into the water. And, then we head down into the water, and there's, like, an underwater Quarrens / Mon Calamari Senate.
Yeah.
Or
and
gathering
they're just bickering,
of people.
Yeah, they're bickering back and forth, essentially. Kind of basically playing out what has been established in the newsreel. You know, they're not trusting Princely Char to be able to lead the planet and to maintain peace because he's really young and inexperienced, and even Lee Char himself is like, yeah, I agree with that sentiment. I am very dumb and very stupid, and I don't know what you guys are expecting.
Do you want to talk about the introduction of this ambassador, which is like a shark type character?
Yes. What's his name? Riff Tamson, right? He's not named right away, is he?
No, he's just called ambassador. Later we'll find out that he is in conversation with Dooku at one point. And he calls him Commander Tamson. So I don't know if he's a commander. I don't know if he's an ambassador. But the gist of what I got is that he is there on behalf of the Quarren because the Mon Calamari wanted the Republic representation there, which would be Amidala. So they are the... what do you call that? There's a word I'm
intermediaries, or
yeah, not what I was looking for, but that'll totally work.
Right.
But I had one observation, and that is that maybe I need to look it up again, but I'm pretty sure that like the emblem that is on the shoulder of this Tamson guy is the Republic emblem.
I didn't even notice.
It's like it's like a heptagonal. Is that 6 or 8 octagonal? Septagonal, doesn't matter. Like wedges. You know, it's like this, but wedges, and that like later kind of transitions into the Imperial cog, right?
Right.
I'll have to take a look back at this, but I'm pretty sure that the logo that's on his arm is the logo of the Republic, not the logo of the
Separatists.
Yeah, I could be wrong on that, but anyway, that stuck out to me because it made me question his alliance, because he's clearly aligned with the Separatists. And next thing I had to say was that I find it weird that they refer to themselves as the Separatists.
Why? I thought we've had this conversation already, though.
We have, and it just still strikes me as weird.
Yeah, especially starting out season 4 here. You know, we're 71 episodes in. Yeah, this definitely isn't the first occurrence of this. You know, Dooku's always referring to himself. Yeah, Dooku has many times referred to himself as a Separatist.
It just feels, I don't know. Separatism has like a negative connotation to me, so it feels like these people are like, oh yeah, we're the bad guys.
I don't know, because I mean, in the American United States Civil War, like the Confederacy knew that they were fighting for succession. Is that so? I mean, in a way, I don't know if there's a history of them calling themselves separatists, but like the fact that they were openly like succession, like, you know what I mean? That's,
I don't know. I just feel it's different. I read it as different. So either way.
Yeah. So moving forward from there, basically what Commander Tamson is doing is kind of stirring the pot. Padme tries her best to step in, but then because she steps in, she kind of makes things worse because the Quarren are like, "Why are you here? Who asked you anything?" You know?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of like rabble rousing going on both sides in the background, and it's just kind of, as far as like an audio design, a sound design, it is just kind of like generic, like, wow, hey, we hate the Republic, we hate the Separatists. And I think it's effective with just this ambiance of discord, there's just a general distrust in this room, and everybody has something to say. And honestly, Amidala is set up for failure. Like, as soon as she steps in to say something, Tamsin is able to be like, yep, like, this is why I'm here. And she's like, no, I'm here to like to make sure that you don't need to be here. And he's like, that's exactly why I'm here, because you have to be.
Yeah, she gets shut down pretty darn quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So then basically everybody kind of leaves the chamber. Is it a chamber really? Because like there's sort of
like a gathering place. Maybe we could call it, with like bleachers.
Like a hall, like a parliament hall, I guess.
An underwater auditorium, maybe.
Right. Because like at any point, basically any character could do a 180 and just swim directly out. Right. There aren't true barriers, were there? There were like some.
No, I don't think so. It's
but
like
they were basically in open water. It was like open air amphitheater, but underwater.
I was gonna call it an aqua theater.
Right. So, I will say to start out the episode, being set on Mon Calamari, it's visually different, which I really like.
Mm-hmm.
There's something really interesting about the fact that, from a movie perspective, 0G and underwater effectively are the same.
I don't like that. I do not like that at all. I don't like that when, like maybe for the native species, right? Mm-hmm. But like Padme kind of has like her rump like setting on a like some sort of cross beam, right? Mm-hmm. That represents a bleacher. Right. And she can just like lean forward, and then her body just moves forward and down into whatever position she wants to be in. Mm-hmm. As if she's on like an invisible underwater floating Segway.
Right. Yeah.
I do not like that at all.
There are some attempts, or there are usually failures that will happen in space, failures of laws of physics that happen in space episodes that get away here because there is a physical object for them to push against. For the most part, I agree. There are a few times that still fails, but like, let's say there are a lot of space scenes where somebody drops something and for some reason there tends to be a down in space. Whereas here, as we will see later, somebody drops something and it does go down, which is still accurate. Or when they're moving through physical space, the way Riff Tamsin swims is really interesting because he has two mammalian-oriented legs, and yet when he swims, they cross to be one on top of each other, and they turn sideways to flap left to right as a fish would.
Yeah, he's got like rotary ankles.
Yes.
I don't like that either.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that design.
Honestly, like the way that he moves is fine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the fact I think I talked about this many episodes ago, saying that there was a specific character that I really dislike in this series, and it's this fucking shark guy.
Yeah.
I cannot stand Mr. Shark Guy.
I don't disagree with you. He's definitely built on a lot of tropes.
It's terrible.
Right? He's very basic as terms of in terms of motivation, design, the way he acts. It's very straightforward. I do not disagree with you on Tamsin here at all.
Mm-hmm.
The Quarren also are very weird to me. Because as this scene ends and everybody leaves, one of the Quarren leader, Nasri, is that his name? Is that how you pronounce it?
I was gonna ask you what it was.
Yeah, Nasri. He also stops, like, after all the rabble rousing. He stops and goes, you know, like, I also did respect your father, so I'm sorry that he died. Like, bitch, what? Like, after all of that, and then he stops and it's like, by the way, I did love your father. Like, hold up. Huh?
Now you see, I thought this was great because is this a character that was in argument earlier in this episode? Because I took this as like a one of the more leaders of the Quarren that had like a non-sexual intimate relationship with Lee Char's dad, the king, and Kalina. They had they may not have seen eye to eye, but they had a mutual respect for each other. So in this untimely demise of this king, like, he comes to this prince that is thrust into this thing, and he's like, hey, look, sorry you're going through what you're going through. I really always respected your dad. Hopefully our peoples can work together. And
see, my problem with it, though, is just after that rabble-rousing and letting Riff Tamsin go, like, on his fucking bender, and Ree is just, like, complicit in it, right?
Well, I would say that he probably doesn't have the authority to stop it.
He's the minority lead, though.
Right.
Shall we say. He's the Senate minority leader.
Okay.
And then he lets this other dude enter the chamber, speak for him, start spewing shit like, Mon Calamarians have been on top for too fucking long. Like,
okay,
you know, make Mon Calamari great again. Like, fuck y'all, right? And then Ree is just like, I mean, he's on my team, so I'm not saying no. So, I guess, sure, Tamsin, sure. So Tamsin's going around like, you know, there are good people on both sides sort of thing. And then, that's what Ree does, right? Ree steps in and is like, well, there are good people on both sides, including your dead father. Like, that's what bothers me about that, right?
Interesting.
It was such a weird little moment to me where, like, you're setting up all this conflict and you pull in Ree to be like, well, maybe he's the good guy, but he's the one still starting all of this rabble-rousing, right?
Okay. So. Yeah, I definitely read that a little differently, so I'm interested to see how our opinions coincide, intersect, or separate later moving through this.
For sure.
Because I definitely...
Yep, go ahead.
The next thing that happens is that Anakin wants to go call Yoda, so he basically takes the prince by the arm. This is when this Quarren constellation with Lee Char happens. Then we cut to a conference call between Yoda, Mace Windu, Akbar, Anakin, Padme. They had to leave the ocean, get back on the ship for this. So we do see them like resurface, and then somehow they get back up on the diving board. I'm not really sure. The captain, is that what he was?
Yes, captain. Yep.
The captain is introduced as Akbar. Like, this is Admiral Akbar from the future as a younger man, or as a younger
Calamarian. Mon
Calamarian, correct. So Yoda basically says, is the Civil War inevitable? And Akbar says yes. Yoda blames Dooku. Mace just immediately says, okay, I'm going to send Master Fisto, I'm going to send your Padawan, and I'm going to send a platoon of clones. And he tells Akbar, tell your people to prep for war. Anakin doesn't have much to say. Padme doesn't have much to say. This is one of those things where we have, do we really need all these characters to be here at this point in time?
Meh. mean, maybe not. Yeah.
You know, each person has like a one-liner, like,
right.
You know, so it's fine. It looks nice. I don't know why this couldn't have taken place underwater.
Yeah.
I don't know why they had to get back on the ship. That, to me, and I know I'm looking deeply into this, that tells me that the communication doesn't work like sub-sea level.
Yeah, do you find it interesting that in the Star Wars universe there are a lot of characters who are water-based that can survive above water, but it's
not
never
the other way around?
Yeah, it's never the other way around.
Yeah.
Like
that's interesting.
Between Gungans and Calamarians, do we ever see these Quarren species ever above water? Is that a...
I think we see him in the Senate for sure.
Okay. So yeah, it's very fascinating to me that water creatures can go both ways, but not like everything. Like
in the
would there be some sort of discrimination for the Senate if they couldn't be like? Would they just have a floating tank that they would be chilling in?
I think that we saw those balls of water in the Mon Calamari ballet, right? So I think it would probably be something similar to that. Like the individual Senate pods would probably be have a self-contained water something or other. It's interesting that you brought up the Gungans though, because my take on the Gungans is that they were land dwellers. Like they were some type of a amphibious being. Like maybe the breeding happens in the water, and like the essentially younglings come from the water and then to the earth, to the terracotta, but because of the perceived difference between the Gungans and the Naboobians, the Gungans retreated back into the water, which is why they live in dome cities, because they don't live in the water.
No,
they live in the atmospheric domes underwater.
Right. But it's still interesting to me that Jar Jar and other Gungans have the ability to remain underwater for at least a long extended period of time.
I agree with you. So I think that may be like the one example of an earthbound species being able to survive underwater as opposed to the other way around.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds
so.
Yeah.
Hooray for Jar Jar.
Yeah. Good on the Gungans. So basically, the following scene, we have the prince trying to rally some people together, or
we get
there's a big meeting.
We get the speed tubes.
Yes,
which I also think are dumb.
We will talk more about the speed tubes later.
Sure.
Let's establish that they exist, and then
Captain Akbar is talking to a senator. I don't feel like she gets a name, but she does get boobs. Which is weird for a fish species. They're non-mammalian, right?
Yes,
but I guess the same thing with the Kaminoans. They have an upper...
They have bosoms.
Yeah. They got boobs too. Which is weird. Akbar definitely has his reservations about Lee Char, and the senator's like, nope, you're in charge of Lee Char, you're his bodyguard. Akbar's like, no, I got this thing I got to do, and she's like, nope, this is what you're going to do. This is what you're doing now. I don't remember seeing her again for the rest of the episode.
No.
Nope. But then what happens? We cut over to, we cut back above the surface. We have all those squid ships, which we saw all the way back in the very beginning of the newsreel of the movie. And it's like the squid ship that steals the sandbars, that steals Jabba's son, Road of the Hutt. And they're just dropping these, what are they called? Aqua droids? Is that what they are?
Aqua droids, yeah.
There's a whole bunch of them just squirting aqua droids down into the water. And then we cut over to, this is where we cut to Tamsin talking to Dooku. So since he is like a shark creature, right?
Mm-hmm.
He is circling Dooku's hollow projection.
Yes.
And I feel like this is a call to how sharks continually need to swim forward. This is how their gills work. Like, they cannot stay still.
Nope. Or they die.
So I feel like this is what's going on here. And it made me try to remember back to the earlier scene if he was doing the same thing, but I don't remember.
No, he was not. He definitely remains stationary at times. That is a thought I had as well. As soon as the scene happened, I go, like, my memory stuck to it. I'm like, nope, he was definitely standing still while talking to Padme and like yelling at her before he swam away. Like,
okay, then I will echo my earlier opinion of Mr. Sharkman.
Yeah, please, I definitely agree with you. No argument there. And then after this, is this when we cut back to Lee Char trying to have his little moment?
Yep. We cut to an assembly of Mon Cal, and the Prince King makes a speech, and he does point out like what people would consider his flaws. He's too young. He's in it with his people, and then he's like, he's like, well, in my opinion, the Quarren won't attack, and the Quarren attack.
Yeah, it's literally the two lines of dialogue in order. Prince Lee Char says, quote, "I do not believe the Quarren will attack," unquote. Literally the next line or the next moment are Quarren rolling down, and then one of them yells, "Attack," unquote.
Yeah, I thought it was Tamsin that did, but it doesn't.
Oh, maybe
really matter.
It was. Yeah, maybe it was.
And then
I think I was just writing generically in my notes for that one. So.
And then Akbar says, "It's an attack."
Yep. Which I found maybe not. I'm sure it's intentional to some degree, but I just.
Oh, it definitely is.
I made it more humorous in my head than I think even the writers were intending for it to be.
They should have put these people in a trap, and he should have said, "It's a trap."
No.
Or "This is crap."
Yeah.
Or he should have pointed at the senator and been like, "She's got a rack."
He's in line for Starbucks. It's a frap.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. In my head, it was more of like a Arrested Development moment where Lee Char is like, "They won't attack," and then Ron Howard steps in. "They will."
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's kind of why I was just like, this is silly. Like, I don't dislike it, but I don't really truly enjoy it. It was just one of those like weird like yep, they did it.
I was totally fine with it. Like, again, I watched these a couple of times. The first time I was like waiting for the "it's a whatever" line, because I knew it was coming. I knew it was going to be somewhere, and it's worked in well, and it works fine.
Yeah,
and this old me being an old nerd, I can be like, ha ha ha, yeah, that's it. And whether or not everyone loves it or everyone hates it or whatever, I was cool. It was fine.
It's not forced for the "it's a ... moment. I'll give it that. Some of the other moments they'll get pretty forced. And at least here, it establishes a habit. It doesn't kind of break things the way a few episodes back when they introduced carbonite freezing. That breaks things in the universe. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I agree with you. Like, it's a fine little moment that just is there. But and then,
Did you ever see the previews to Star Wars Detours, the Seth Green and Matt Steinreich Star Wars show?
I don't believe I did. No.
So it was canceled, so it never came out. But at Celebration, one of the ones in Orlando, I don't know, Celebration 5 or Celebration 6, back when they still had numbers. They were there and they did a panel, right? And they showed some footage, and Admiral Akbar was one of the characters, and I think he ran like a diner or something. And one of the clips that they showed was him walking back and forth on the counter, like practicing a line. He's like, "It's a conundrum. No, it's a ruse. No, that's not right." It was the way that the joke was set up in the show was pretty funny. So if you guys can track that down, Star Wars Detours was obviously not canon, even though Seth Green claimed that it was.
Of course he did.
But it was pretty comical. And I was thinking about that during this episode. Anyway.
So we get a nice little not space battle. We get an aqua battle, right?
We do get an aqua battle, and Anakin wants to take the prince away to like a safe place, right? And Akbar's like, "Hey, it's not up to me, it's up to him," and he declines. He said, "My place is with my people" line that Amidala uses in episode 1. We do get a big old battle. Tamsin is heading the Quarren side, and seeing as he is Mr. Sharkman, he's like headbutting people and biting people and attacking like an actual shark.
And he's got the fierce snaps that happens, right? So it's not like just like a headbutt.
Shark
like
rage.
Shark rage. It's a shark, like a full blown snap attack.
Shark bursty.
Yeah, like a burst attack. You know. So yeah, that's sort of interesting.
No, it's not.
This is when my memory definitely starts to fail me, because there's a lot of battle that kind of all happens, and then my brain kind of melded it all together. I'm not gonna lie. I do want to comment that at first it is I appreciate, as I mentioned before, the idea that aqua battles and space battles, theoretically, visually speaking, are similar, and yet here they do kind of provide a different feeling to it, because they're not in ships per se. They're not in little self-contained ships. They're out in the open. People are shooting each other with rifles and blasters and stuff still.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah, Anakin and Ahsoka are still kind of like deflecting certain blaster bolts with their lightsabers, right?
Okay.
So that's visually, I appreciate that that's different, and yet I still found myself just passively getting awash with images. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So Akbar does give like a pep talk to his peoples before they charge forward into the attack. Anakin, Lichar, and Padme are left behind. Lichar wants to... he decides that they need troops behind the Separatist droids, which he wants to outflank them, right? Fair enough. And then he's like, I know his shortcut. His shortcut is the speed tubes. So they speed tube their way all the way around, and it's like the three of them and a couple of other Mon Cal, and that's it.
Yeah.
At some point in time, Kit Fisto shows up with Ahsoka. Ahsoka does have her lightsabers, right? You brought that up?
Yes, yeah.
Where did she get them?
I don't know. I'm assuming at some point during the previous episode, the finale of season 3, when she was escaping the Trandoshan planet. That there was maybe some time jump that we didn't see, and they like did a full look through the trophy room and found her lightsabers or something.
Okay.
That's my only guess.
I guess I'm okay with that. Because, you don't see him taken away, so you don't need to see him given back to her.
Right.
But they are the same lightsabers that she had, right? These aren't new.
No. I believe they are the same.
It definitely was a question that comes to mind when it's like, one episode she has them, next episode she's captured, next episode she has them again.
Yes.
But she doesn't have them to fight off like her captors and whatever. That's fine, whatever. Secondly, do you remember anything? Is there any dialogue or anything about lightsabers working underwater? Or is this just like the episode that's like, ta-da, they work?
I feel like we had. I don't know if we've seen them underwater. I just feel like I had seen. This is old canon, but I think in the 2D animated Clone Wars, we'd already seen Kit Fisto with a lightsaber underwater. I had never known them to not work underwater. Does that make sense?
It does. Like, and maybe it's from like an old Jedi Outcast video game or something that I do remember them not working underwater. Or like... Interesting. I feel like what I remember before this episode was like, if you submerge it and turn it on, it'll work. If it's on and then you submerge it, it will short it out. Like, there was some weird thing where it was like, you can't go from like one to the other, but you can use it in both circumstances. Huh. And I don't know where... Yeah. I don't know where I would have gotten that information.
Yeah, I've never known them to not work, and basically established here, they can ignite them underwater, and that's okay. I don't know if we see one on and then somebody jumps into the water.
Yeah, I don't think that we do.
Yeah, but we definitely see a lot of them getting ignited underwater. Ahsoka's ignite and Anakin get some lightsaber action for sure.
Anakin definitely almost loses he does lose like his oxygen face helmet bubble thing for a while, and has to fend off some attackers. This is the point when Ahsoka gets there, right? Because she that's the reveal. She's swimming up, and then somehow she has his helmet bubble.
But yeah, she goes to grab it. She sees it falling down, and she's on like one of those like aqua speeder things, those underwater jet skis, I guess.
Yeah, it's like an underwater step.
Yeah, underwater step. So she helps out. She shoots a couple of the aqua droids, and then sees that he's without helmet, finds it, gets it back to him. Yeah. So yeah, she's able to race down and grab it. At some point, I don't remember if it's the scene we've already have discussed or if it's a future one, but when they're racing through the speed tunnels, there's something that bothers me so much, but I think that's at some point Sharkman bumps into like a wall or something, or like somebody shoots at like a part of a building and it slices through the speed tube.
It totally does.
It slices through the speed tube.
And this is bad news for the people that are inside.
Right. So Lee Char, I think, is it Padme and Anakin are ahead of where the tube gets split, and then there are a few Mon Calamarian soldiers behind. What I don't get is that they show the Mon Calamarian behind like screaming and falling down. Yes. And then they're gone forever. Are they dead? They're yelling and they look okay. I don't understand why there was like a fall out and splat, I guess.
That's because the speed tubes do not make sense.
Right, because Anakin is like, oh, we're on our own now. And I'm like, no, why don't they just swim and meet you back at the other side of the tube? I don't.
Like, I feel like this would have been, these speed tubes, I guess, are supposed to be like a visual representation of like underwater currents or something. And these are, maybe this is like the Mon Calamari, like understanding underwater currents and then like manufacturing the technology to work in their favor. But I think it really would have just worked better if it was like some type of underwater current or a riptide or something, and that way the knowledge of Lee Char saying, I know a shortcut, it's not just like, oh, we'll take the turbo lift.
Right. This is like Finding Nemo did it in 2003 perfectly with the turtles.
That's kind of what I was thinking of.
Right. But yeah, here
this is like me being at the mall and being like, oh, we need to go up to Dick's Sporting Goods, and I'll be like, I know a shortcut, and we get on the escalator.
Or no, you just like take the stairs, like, you know. Like, I don't understand what the tube is doing, and like, there's no visual representation to me to show that they're actually really going that fast, honestly. Other than just kind of seeing it zoom by, but even then, the fact, what bothers me so much is the fact that the tube gets broken, and then somehow it's like, so in your analogy of like taking the escalator, the escalator stops, and instead of walking up the rest of the way, you're standing there like, we're stuck. We need to call for help. What do we do? You know?
And then you scream, and you're very sad.
Yeah, like, please help us. Like, there's an SNL skit that did that where people got stuck on an escalator.
Did they just like rip off the Mitch Hedberg joke? Is that where the skit came from?
Basically, sort of. But they played it out more so as if they were like trapped in an elevator scenario.
Like immortal peril.
Right. So they're like calling for help. They're like, what do we do? Like, we're all stuck here. So yeah, that's how I feel about these tubes. That one little moment pissed me off so much that I just really need to get into it. So you see the three of them falling. I don't understand what's happening.
Yeah, maybe even if like the tubes did go through some type of dangerous environment that wasn't just regular seawater on the outside.
Right. Or like if we got more of like an indication that they were on the backside of the speed tube and like splat into the thing, but when they like roll out of the tube, you still kind of see them like flailing about. So I don't know. Yeah. It was bad. I didn't understand that at all. Anyways, what happens next year?
That is a very good question. I think at this point we do see Master Kit Fisto is kind of doing his thing. Yeah. He's definitely kicking ass and taking names.
Yep.
The one thing that I did read on Wikipedia, when it comes to Arabesh, like, so Plo Koon has his lat, right? And on the front of his lat it says Plo's Bros. So on the ship on Kit Fisto's ship in Arabesh, and it was done in the artwork, it was done in the production, but based on the camera angle and the way that the ship came in and how far it was from essentially camera focus, you can't read it, but what it says is service with a smile, which I think is fucking excellent, because we do get at least one Kit Fisto hamming it up to the camera, straight up smile.
Oh yeah.
And the dude's shirtless in this, right?
Yep, pretty much the whole episode. Yep.
There you go, ladies.
Or
gentlemen, if you like
a lot of Kit Fisto.
Like a lot of Kit
happening.
Fisto?
Yeah, there's a lot of Kit Fisto.
He has nipples, even though he is also not mammal-based.
Right. Yeah, nipples seem to be universal in this universe, I guess.
Universally universal.
Yep, indeed. I'm not gonna lie. The rest of this episode is kind of where, as I was describing in last week's episode, and to some degree here, there's a lot of battles that happen, and then my mind just starts to meld them all together. Like, let's see. So essentially, at some point, I'm probably skipping around, and honestly, it doesn't matter. Like the majorly Cliff Notes part of this is that Lee Char at some point ends up back in another tube, and while he's in there, there's him and Ahsoka, and then Shark Dude Riff starts doing his shark attack at the side of the tube, right? So we're going like full Jaws 3D situation here.
Yeah.
Right, and then like Lee Char is just kind of getting jostled around, and Ahsoka's like pulling him through on like the underwater stap thing, and then at some point other droids come in to the tube, and then so Ahsoka's like, I'm gonna let go, and then smashes her stap into the droids. They explode, and then that's when Riff gets a good couple thrashings at the tube, which then thrashes Lee Char around.
Uh-huh.
And then eventually does burst through, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
Now, there is one thing that we did skip over that we should talk about, and that's the hydroid Medusas, which are like these secret...
That comes later, I think, doesn't it?
Oh, this comes later?
That comes later. Yeah,
My apologies.
No worries. So, yeah, kind of like... Yeah, because one little thing that happens in between. So, Rift does pierce through the speed tunnel. But then at the last second, some other clones come down, and then they start shooting at Tamsin. They get shots on Tamsin, and what I do not understand is they get like 3 or 4 shots on Tamsin. You see them make contact with skin, and nothing. Not a char, not a burn, not a scratch, not
a it was a sick burn, man.
No, not at all, because the dude just gets aggravated, turns around, and swims away. So
and this was trooper fire, correct?
Yes. Yep. So clones start firing on him.
You know what these troopers are called?
Scuba troopers.
Scuba troopers.
Yes, the scuba troopers. So then the Quarren disappear for a second, and that is when our good guys are still hanging around this Capitol building. Then the Quarren return with the hydroid Medusas, which are 100% just giant robo jellyfish.
Yeah. Well, I would say they're like 33% robot, 33% jellyfish, and 33% disappointing. Because like the hydroid Medusas are like totally talked up by the Quarren and I think by Tamsin himself, right? As like these gigantic cyborgs and like all this stuff. And yeah, they have like electrified tentacles, but for real, they're not quick moving.
Right.
They just their threat is being like en masse, right?
Right.
And
what's weird too is like they're so slow moving, and yet we do see 2 clones die from the electricity.
Yes.
I don't.
But at the same time, you know what I kept thinking? Like you made a Finding Nemo reference earlier. Like as I was watching the scene, I was just thinking, just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep
bounce
swimming.
On the top. Yeah, but they let the Medusa swim above them so that they can get some shots at the underbelly, which just seems silly to me, which is maybe because of my Finding Nemo like knowledge, where like the tops are safe, the bottoms are dangerous, so yeah, let's hang out until the bottoms come into view and over us. Like essentially they are giving the Medusas the high ground, and I don't know.
The high water mark.
Yes, exactly.
Is this because the top of them is like impenetrable and they're not able to attack from the top? They have to attack from the bottom?
The bottom side attacks don't seem to be faring any better, honestly.
That's very true.
They still seem to not react and be impenetrable to the regular blasters of our clones.
Yeah, blasters do nothing, but lightsabers do. They can cut the tentacles off. So Kit Fisto does a little bit of defending here. It's the Medusas that drive the remaining Mon Cal and the Jedi right into some caves.
Yes.
They have to retreat. I think at this point, Count Dooku is talking to Tamsin again. I will say when we do get some Count Dooku hologramming, right? Skype calls. Like the way that it looks underwater is pretty cool. Like there is a little flow and ripple to it. And I really wish that this effect was used in a lot of other aspects of this episode.
It should have just been a filter on top of this entire episode, honestly.
That, and this maybe this is just cliche, but I feel like there should have been some bubbling going on, like when at least when air breathers are like talking or something, like we do see it a couple times with Anakin where like his head mask thing like ventilates and you see like a little bloop.
Yes.
And I don't know, one other thing that I think maybe a positive note, I'm not sure if this was just an effect of the way that I was watching this, because I usually am viewing these episodes on DVD. This one, not so much. But there was just the slightest difference in sync between audio and video, like in the lip sync. Is this something that was actually in the episode?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, because I was going to say, if so, like, congratulations, because, like, light waves and sound waves travel differently underwater, so that would have been also a cool effect if it was on purpose. So,
yeah.
To get back to where we were, we do get another Dooku hologram. Those effects are cool, but what Dooku is telling Tamsin is that essentially he wants the Mon Cal population all taken to internment camps. Everybody, is essentially going to be enslaved. This announcement startles Ree, which is the Quarren from the beginning of the episode that showed his compassion for Lee Char's father, right? And then at that point, he protests against Dooku. What's his fate? Do we see his fate?
I don't believe we do.
I don't think we do.
We cut away, basically. But this kind of goes back to what I was discussing with Ree before, where it's like, you're the one who set the chessboard for this, and then you're going to complain when they go through and, like, knock over the queen. Right?
I don't know. I kind of feel like he's... like his position isn't necessarily of power, it's more of God damn it, there's another word I'm looking for here. So he's like a figurehead. He's like a figurehead, not necessarily a person of power. He's like the spokesperson, right? I think he's the spokesperson, but not necessarily the leader. I think everybody else is still going to be able to. I think that's pretty clear. Like, he's like the figurehead, but he doesn't have the power to A, persuade the people, or B, use his opinion, and he's got no influence, right? He's just like the figurehead. He's just the voice, but he's not actually he's not the fucking meat in the sandwich. He's not the cheese in the grilled cheese.
Because then that just kind of bothers me more, because if Tamsin is the separatist representative from outside, right?
He's just a stir in the pot, fucking send in a military figure to fucking take over and literally rabble rouse.
Okay, but then Ree, like I said, is the minority Senate leader. Is the Senate minority leader.
Right.
So he's like he's the head representative of this minority group on this planet. If the Mon Calamarians are the majority group, ethnic group, however you want to label that, but then the Quarrens are the minority ethnic group, but they still have a leader. That would be Ree. Right? Because, like, in that big Senate room, we don't see any other Quarrens really speaking up.
Yeah, I guess maybe... I don't know. Maybe he doesn't have, like, an actual leader position. Maybe the reason he was speaking up is because of his relationship with Lee Char's father.
Maybe. Yeah.
It's questionable.
Yeah.
I don't think there's enough information here even digging through like Wikipedia and stuff, there's not enough info to lead us to a proper conclusion. And
right.
I totally see where you're coming from, like how you can see the structure of things, and I'm doing my best to defend this character, maybe not the situation.
Right. I understand that, but then it's because of the situation that I can't defend the character. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because he's the one that's been egging it on. So it's weird to me at the end where he's like, "Oh, I didn't see this coming at all." It's like you knew what you signed up for. You brought on a separatist ambassador, and you know who the leader of the separatists are. Right? Like, that's why I don't get why he's surprised right now.
Right.
Like, he does not get to do the surprise Pikachu face. Like, that is not allowed here. You know?
Pika-Pee?
Exactly.
Yeah, I guess the way that I read this character is that he wants to be influential, but doesn't actually have the backing behind it.
Right, for sure.
And so, I don't know. I don't really see him as a leader, and like an actual leader. Mm-hmm. But back to the cave.
Yep.
Lichar is all depressed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And isn't he kind of blaming himself? But then he gets like a little pep talk from Akbar and Ahsoka.
Yep.
And essentially they tell him that being a leader is also, it's not necessarily always leading into battle, but it's also knowing when to
step back and hold up.
Right.
Reassess the situation. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the end of this episode. Ends with them in the cave.
Yep.
Cool.
We're out of the cave. Or not out of the cave. We get out of the episode in the caves.
You and I have debated intensely sometimes about what constitutes a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Is this a cliffhanger in your eyes, or is this just kind of
It's an open ending. Yeah, but it's not a cliffhanger. A cliffhanger is like you literally don't know a moment in time, right?
Uh-huh.
But an open ending, there's a conclusion to the current
the arc of the story.
Yes. And there's still more to be covered.
You just don't know what it is.
Right. So like a cliffhanger would have been like if Akbar pulled out a gun and Ahsoka and Lichar are standing there and you see Akbar pull the trigger, but you don't know what happens afterwards. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
That's a cliffhanger.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Ahsoka pulls out a knife and then like throws it and stabs Akbar. And
That's not a knife.
Right.
That's a knife.
Yeah. So that's a cliffhanger. Like there is a unresolved action. Here, like all the actions are resolved.
Yep.
But they're open threads.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you got anything else for this one before we go on to talk about how we feel?
Nope.
All
Cue
right,
loud music.
Cue loud music. That's like the most depressing cue loud music I've felt in a while.
Yeah, that is a weird one because they're just in a cave. Nothing else is happening.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I guess it's kind of not too dissimilar to an earlier episode, The Citadel, at the end after we had met Tarkin, and it's just kind of like, okay, we got through the hole in the wall and we put the plug back in, and we're just gonna walk and nope, that's it. Put the plug in.
I will say this doesn't end nearly as awkwardly as that. It's not much better, but it's not nearly as just like. Here, at least, there's like kind of like a, hey, we failed this last thing, but don't worry. Like, that's not what makes a leader. Like, thumbs up in terms of like.
Pep talk.
Like, cool, yeah, pep talk time, right? Whereas in the other one.
Lost the battle, didn't lose the war.
Right. But in like the Citadel, it's like, hey, we just got to get through this hole. Awesome. Put the hole back. Like, why did we have to see that happen? Oh, cue loud music. Like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Right. At least. Here there's a there's a come down from the action, and then we close.
Yeah. So how do you want to do this? You want to do thumbs up, thumbs down, and then talk about our overall thoughts? You want to cover the heavy hitters?
And then thumbs up, thumbs down. Let's go.
All right, let's do it. What you got?
I think my side is kind of obvious. I didn't like this episode.
Okay. Usually I let you speak your piece, but I'm going to totally jump in and agree with you. Tamsin is my least favorite character in this show.
Very strong choice, yeah.
After watching season, and I'm not talking about from last week to this week, but in the original run of this show, I've talked about it before. I was probably a season 2 or when season 2 started, that's when I went back and watched season 1, and then season 2 pulled me in, and season 3 I was watching week to week when it came out. Zach was on the show last week from Reclone Pod. Shouts out to his podcast. But we talked about the conclusion of season 3, and I really liked it. Go back to last week, listen to that. And so I waited that 6 or whatever months it was for this. And I was like, you have to be fucking kidding me. They have a shark man who can walk around in water sometimes, and then sometimes he connects his ankles and it has an actual fin, and he attacks like an actual shark. And this doesn't seem to be, there's nothing about this character to me is this is a Star Wars alien thing. It is, right. This is Mr. Sharkman in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah. And
I really disliked it. I don't want to say I hated it because that's super strong, but I fucking hated it.
I'm with you, honestly. It's such a lazy character. It's lazy implementation. It's a character like that makes me angry that in the post-Disney buyout, that when we had a shot at uncanonizing everything, and I understand, I really do understand the amount of time people have put into investing into reading these stories and watching these stories and all of that. The idea of throwing that away, and I understand. There are some good things about Clone Wars that I enjoy being in canon, but it's stuff like Riff Tamsin existing in Star Wars canon that totally bothers me. I agree with you.
I think a lot of the reason that the Clone Wars is included in canon comes down to George Lucas, and it comes down to there's a lot of cool shit, man.
I also think really Disney heard the outcry of because it was such a fresh, recent, warm corpse of a thing, right? That it was excised out at first. It was not in canon at first.
I totally don't remember that.
Yeah, for a second, Disney just threw out everything. Blanket statement. 6 movies is it. That's it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I guess the way I remember it was I don't know, because until everything was confirmed, it was there was so many rumors going around and whatever, and honestly I was so mad that the EU was gone.
Right.
I guess I never even thought about the Clone Wars. But
at least that was my understanding. Maybe I was just buying too heavy duty into the rumors.
Yeah, who knows?
But I think a big part of it was mainly because so many people had just invested 5 years of their lives watching the show that Disney was yeah, I guess we'll hang on to that one because, it wouldn't hurt us to keep that in addition to the 6. So as far as I know, that was the only thing that got grandfathered in from old EU.
Yeah. Interesting.
Because it was so fresh, and because Dave Filoni had like you said, it was closer to George Lucas than many other EU properties. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was canceled at first, and then the whole canon debacle happened. But yeah, this episode is just like I said, there's so many action scenes that don't stand out to me. They all blend in. I'm not gonna lie, I fell asleep a few times, and I had like 10 hours of sleep last night. Like, so for me to fall asleep while trying to like watch an action heavy episode is
so you're saying you dozed off a couple times during the single viewing of this episode?
Yes, like I found myself
gotcha.
snapping awake, rewinding a couple seconds to see what I missed, and really it was like literally like 2 seconds.
Yeah, there's a lot of aqua battle.
Yeah.
There's a couple different aqua perils, and there is some aqua baloney in here. I mean,
the Medusas are really boring, honestly.
Yeah,
everything about this episode is just lazy. Like,
yeah, I don't want to call it lazy.
I don't know.
I'm not gonna disagree that
it's super basic. It's basic.
Yeah. It could have been so
giant
cool.
Jellyfish.
This could have been such a great thing. Next week's episode is Gungan Attack, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have no expectations of that, whether it is going to continue this story or not. Like, my thoughts are that it will, because it was Water War and Gungan Attack, Season 4 Episode 1, Season 4 Episode 2 were released back to back. That was a dual episode release. Usually when that happens, it's the continuation of the same story.
Yeah, it's a single arc of some sort. Yeah.
But honestly, I have no idea.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll definitely see next week. I'm just saying, for this one, for sure, I'm just left whelmed.
Like, you're just whelmed. Simply whelmed.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I didn't outright hate this episode per se, right? But I'm just...
I mean, I did. But...
I was struggling to stay awake. Let's put it that way, right? Like, this episode didn't, like, offend me per se, except for maybe Riff Hampson and the Medusas. But otherwise, it's just...
Now,
it's just really weird that the battles themselves were so monotonous that I was falling asleep in the middle of the day, or in the late afternoon.
The sun was still up.
The sun was still
in
wide
beautiful
up.
California.
Right.
Birds
and
chirping.
Like I said, yesterday, I fell asleep at like 5 p.m., woke up at 9, went back to sleep at 10, woke up at 6 a.m. for work. I had a lot of sleep yesterday.
That's insane. That's like a week's worth of sleep right there.
Right. And yet, I was falling asleep during this episode.
So,
for my one viewing.
we've definitely heavily pointed out the things that we don't like.
Yeah.
Is there anything positive in here for you?
I like the idea of underwater battles. I really...
Okay. I am totally there with you.
If they had paced this so much better, I think visually it's fine.
Okay.
I think the visual gun battles going back and forth is really cool. The fact that they're in just like sort of like the clones are just in suits and not in like underwater subships of some sort is really cool. Because they really could have just gone lazy, put them in each like self-contained subships of some sort.
Yep.
Like sub-fighters, right?
Right.
And just done what they do in space but underwater.
They could have even put them in a suit in their suit.
Right. Just something. But like I like the idea. I like that visual difference, and yet the way the episode plays out is where we fail, right?
Yeah. I totally agree with you. Like, the idea of an underwater battle is amazing. Bringing Kit Fisto into this, I think, was a great idea.
Yes, absolutely.
Some of the mundanity of the fight itself happens in the Clone Wars in other episodes.
Yes.
Could it have been avoided in one way or another? Probably. My 3 biggest gripes, and those are the 3 that I can't get over, are the way that things move underwater. As though by personal telepathy.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. I do not like this shark guy.
Nope.
And I had a hard time following why these events were happening.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Yeah, the story is sloppy, for sure.
And that's it. So,
yeah.
Unfortunately, because of those things, I got to give this one a thumbs down. I am, as I feel like I say every week, very interested to see what happens next. I am almost more interested after episodes that I give a Filoni baloney to see what happens after it, to see where this show goes pushing forward. I'm almost more interested when I give a thumbs down to see what happens next week. So yeah, I am excited to see where we're going in Gungan Attack, because I feel like Jar Jar and a whole bunch of Gungans are going to come to Mon Cal and dive into the water, and we're going to have some Gungan shenanigans.
Right.
Saving some people from a cave. I'm not real sure, because if that's not what happens, I have no idea.
I have nothing. I'm just going to wait until we get there. Because unlike you, my brain's working one episode at a time for this one.
Yep.
Like, it's just, and especially with this one, it's just, this one was so plain Jane, ho-hum, whatever you want, simple Jack, of an episode that I admire your hope that like a following episode might turn the ship around or add to it or whatever.
And I don't even know if it'll do that. I'm just really interested to see like where you go.
Right. Yeah. How do you fix this mess?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. So that said,
it's like you're in the woods popping a squat with no toilet paper. Like, where do you go from here?
What do you do? Do you just pull your underwear right up? Just walk around with a shitty asshole?
We're gonna find out.
Right. So Gungan Attack next week. Until then, if you want to reach out to us, notthenerds.com has everything all together.
Yeah, you can just head over to notthenerds.com. We got all of our social media links there. There is a feed that you can just download straight from there. So
nice.
You can do it that way. We like to shout out to Kevin Warren on Twitter at They Call Me K-Dub. Thanks, buddy, for doing the artwork for the show. Lindsay, you can email her over at strangefantasymusic@gmail.com. She's the one that did our intro-outro music. And I'll throw another shout-out, my buddy Anthony, who put together our website.
Yes.
At Blue the Beard on Twitter. So thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, Lorenzo. I've been Kevin.
I've been Lorenzo Fon over here. These aren't the nerds you're looking for.
Bye-bye.